Okay, go ahead, Carol.
Now I have to start over?
No, you're okay. Just ask your question.
Okay. Well, my question is, what really prompted you to want to even look at another police department like ours? Were you searching for a particular thing?
It's an excellent question. Thank you, Carol. I was a deputy police chief in Salisbury, North Carolina, when the solicitation came out. And I saw the solicitation. I have a very good friend who was a captain with the Madison Police Department, Corey Nelson. I've been knowing Corey for almost 4 years now. My uncle lives here. He was a young pastor at Mount Zion many, many years ago. 3 of my first cousins were born here. I still have a cousin who lives here who works for UPS. And so I wasn't unfamiliar with Madison. And it had been my dream to take over an agency. But as you know, it's more about fit than it is qualifications, as it is qualifications. So I wanted an agency that I thought I would fit in. If you've ever worked for a company and felt like the black sheep from time to time, you know how important it is to be comfortable at work. And so as I did my research, I thought about Madison and I thought about applying, but I always like to have some confirmation. And so I received a phone call from the consulting company that was involved in the process. And the consultant was aware of me. They were aware of my resume and qualifications and some work that I had did with other police departments around the country. And she said she thought I would be a good fit. And I thought I would be a good fit. But when she called me and encouraged me to apply, that helped with a little bit of the confirmation, right? And so I did apply, and it was a very long process. It took almost a year because, as you know, George Floyd happened and civil unrest happened throughout the country, and everyone was dealing with their own, managing their own issues around police and community engagement. And so when the process began to move quicker or move forward, they called me again and asked if I would like to continue in the process. And I told them yes. At that time, I was actually in Chicago working for civilian oversight with the Chicago Police Department. And so I was even closer than in North Carolina. So it afforded me the opportunity to drive up to Madison to have lunch with my uncle and to drive around the city and to just reacclimate myself with what an amazing town. And it felt good, right? And I don't know how to quantify that, but it felt good. It felt like this could be a place that I could contribute, that I could fit in. This could be a place for me to end my career in my dream, which is to lead a police agency. I still think that policing is a noble profession. It's not the most noble. I think teaching and nursing are the most noble professions. But second to those is policing. And I really believe that. And so that led me to want to continue and learn and work to become the police chief here. I did not lobby for the position like some people would have done. I applied, I prepared, and I prayed. And I knew that if this was the place for me, then God would deliver this to me. And that's exactly what happened. I got a call about being selected. I accepted, and I was ready to take on this challenge.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chief Barnes? Paul, go ahead.
Okay. I hear a lot about getting guns off the street. What does that mean to you? really curious about that.
Sure. This is my stance on guns. So I believe that there is a small number of people in our community that is infecting other people with gun violence. We, across the country, police chiefs, we get together, we have these violent summits, and we all say the same thing, Paul. We are arresting the same persons over and over again carrying illegal guns. And the gun in itself may not be the independent variable, but when you are allowed to harm people on multiple occasions and not be held accountable, that's something that we have to fix, I think, in this country. I know we can't arrest our way out of every problem, but if you're not responsible and you think it's okay to pick up a gun, you will not find a safe haven in Madison under my leadership. And I'm working with the district attorney. I'm working with our violent crimes unit. I extended our gang unit. They're now the gang neighborhood crime abatement team. And I added 5 individuals to that unit specifically to target people who want to use illegal guns to hurt other people. We just can't allow it. And I am not against the Second Amendment. I am not against responsible gun ownership by any stretch of the imagination. But I am against those persons who think it's okay to pick up guns and fire them indiscriminately in our city. And I've never been tough on crime. I like to be smart on crime first. But when it comes to that issue, I will make an exception.
Thank you.
MJ, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just follow up on that and affirm what you're doing? In the past, we've had some neighborhood officers. They've been very effective. And they do have a sense of who's running around with the illegal guns and who's having issues that would cause them to use those. So yes, crime abatement in the neighborhood officer sounds really good to me. The problem in the past has been once we got a neighborhood sort of settled, the neighborhood officer was taken away and moved elsewhere. And then the neighborhood collapses. So I'm right behind you pushing for neighborhood officers. They do a remarkable job.
Yes, I think they tried to address that a couple of years ago by making it like a 3-year term or something of that
Yeah.
nature. I can't remember what my staff told me about that because I had the same question. But I will tell you this, in my plan, in my strategic plan, it's a couple of things that we do, right? We're harm focused, intelligence led. We focus on problems. We try to be evidence based and sustainable. So for me, sustainability is very, very important. And what I mean by that is, if you have a good plan, it shouldn't be attached to a person. It should still continue to move on. In my career, I've seen great plans, and when the person who created that plan leaves, then guess what happens to the plan? It goes away. So I'm working really hard to make sure that strategic planning is the way we do business, right? So there's programs, MJ, and then there's the way we do business. Good policing should be the way we do business, and no matter who takes that spot, the neighborhood should not get deteriorated. And one way you can do that is by accountability, making sure that people are held accountable for the things they say that they're going to do. And that's near and dear to my heart. And so hopefully we can make sure that that does not continue to be something. I'll make sure I bring that up with staff.
Other questions for Chief Barnes? Chief, what do you, oh, Jim, do you have one? You got to unmute yourself. I don't know if Jim has a question or not. I don't think he does. Okay. Jim Rutter, if you have a question, just unmute. Okay, go ahead.
This may be a difficult question, but I'm wondering if you could describe any disappointments that have occurred to you as you have come to know Madison, those might include the relationship of the public to the police or the police department itself, anything that you feel comfortable in saying that came as a big surprise to you?
We're all adults here, so we know that some people don't always share our morals and values, correct? My first week here, I got hate mail with some words that we know that we shouldn't be calling other people. I've got some correspondence from people insulting, my family and things of that nature. And it wasn't unexpected, but the question you asked is, was it disappointing? And yes, it was disappointing. But I know that that does not represent Madison. It does not. And so I am not fazed by those things. I continue to move forward and try to be a chief that will make you proud. And that's what I'm focused in on. I'm not focused in on that small group that want to attack or disparage policing. I am surprised that we have a large group of people who support the police and support our mission, but their voices are not always heard. Sometimes the voices of people who want to change or don't think that policing is still noble, sometimes their voices are louder than other voices, even though it's a small group. And so I just appreciate you allowing me to come on and share with you and answer questions. And this motivates me to know that there are people who want policing to be good in Madison and want us to do a great job. So I prefer to listen to your voices over those voices that would be mean and ugly to people.
Sorry you had to deal with that, Chief. That's really awful.
Well, I'm from the South, so unfortunately, those words were not did not shock my conscience, and it was
That's sad too.
Yeah, it is absolutely. But you have to keep moving forward, and you have to be tough.
Thank you for doing that. Morris has a question. Morris, go ahead.
Yes, Chief, how, do you have any plans for expanding I know the CARES system is just a pilot at the moment. What are your plans to look at that data from the CARES program, and how will you expand it if you will?
So the CARES program is not associated with the police department.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe it's being led by the fire department, public health, and maybe one other group. But they have not included my input in that program. I do support any effort to help with mental wellness in our city. But as you know, we did have an unfortunate homicide earlier this week involving someone who I believe may have had some mental wellness challenges. And so there's an article, I think, today in the New York Times. And Tim, I can send it to you if you want to send it out to the group. But it's a pretty good article. And basically what it says is that, these programs that do not include the police department and mental wellness challenges and responses do not show promise. And even the CARES program is modeled after the CAHOOTS program out in Oregon. That I reached out to the creator of that, and I have correspondence from his publications, and he states that there's no program without law enforcement help. And so we could take things away from the police department, or we can work together. And I think the idea is to work together.
So a follow-up question, if I might. So how about the MARI program and how that might relate to the Justice Center discussions?
That's a good question. I don't know the specifics on it. I can get Captain Ty to perhaps give you an answer to that, but I don't want to misspeak about that. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Chief, please send that along and I can get that out to people. What can we do as citizens of Madison to help you and your department? Like, what do you tell people that ask that?
Yeah, I tell them that, I know, I certainly, calling in to city council and letting them know that, you appreciate your neighborhood officer, that you support your neighborhood officer. In this budget, we were asked to reduce our budget by 5% as an exercise, all department heads. But if that were to become a reality, there would be no neighborhood officers. It's no way. I would have to eliminate them because we have to be able to respond to emergencies first. And so, if you want to write a letter to the city council or send city council an email, whether it be individually or collectively, let them know that you support the mission and vision of the police department, and we need resources in order to be good. Some of you may have been in business. You probably operated your own business at one point. Can you run a successful business without resources? You can't. Can you improve a successful business without resources? Some of you may be Green Bay Packers fans. How can you have a successful Super Bowl winning team if you take away the resources? If you look at teams who win the Super Bowl and look at the money they spend on those teams, you will find that those teams who win at a high level, they invest in their team. And I would like for our community to understand that you have to invest in our team. My favorite saying, Tim, is police departments are expensive. But you know what's more expensive than a good police department? A bad police department. Because now you're paying money for lawsuits. Now you're paying money for car accidents because you don't have good equipment. Now you're paying, money because people are being sued because they're not trained properly. And so if you want a great police department, you have to invest in them. And that's all I'm asking.
Thank you. Other questions for Chief Burns? Betsy, do you have a question? Go ahead.
I have a question, Chief. I know that the minorities are very upset with some of the past behavior of the police. And do you think that the community involvement of the police is bringing more appreciation from this community to the department?
That's an excellent question. When it comes to minorities and police, we can never forget that police departments have not always been on the side of justice as we define justice today. And as your police chief, I acknowledge that. And I think it begins with that. And when I meet with minority communities, I let them know, I understand your frustration. I do. But how can we move forward? And I think that we're getting there. I think we sometimes live in a world where we want everything to be instant, right? And trust isn't built overnight. And so I'm willing to stay and work and do the work. And I think the nature of change is that it does move slowly. And if it moves slowly, it's more sustainable, like we talked about earlier. Everyone wants a revolution, immediate, instant change. But I think trust is built through an evolution, slow, gradual change. And it's our officers doing foot patrols, which they love. It's talking to community members. It's doing follow-up. It's being honest with people. Sometimes you have to tell people, I can't fix that problem. And you get a level of respect from that. But most importantly, it's having our community tell our story. Police departments have gotten that wrong for years. We come out and tell everybody what we did today. Well, wouldn't it be better if other people did that? And I mentioned that in my Rotary Club thing. I can mention, I met my wife. I told her I was a pretty good guy, and she really didn't believe me. And then she checked up on me, and other people said, he is a pretty decent guy. And I got a first date, and the rest is history, right? And so sometimes you need other people to tell your story. When you like your neighborhood officer,
It's kind of,
tell that story. Tell that story to your older. When you have a community event or a Zoom forum, tell that story. Go on Facebook and talk about that, so that people know that we're out doing the work.
Thank you. No, other questions as we wrap up here. Other questions for Chief Barnes? I don't see any. Jack, do you have one? I think he does.
Any of your thoughts on body cameras?
Mhm. Yes. So body-worn cameras, I do support. Jack, I got to tell you, it's not a top priority for me right now, because when I'm looking at a budget and they're asking me to cut 5%, which may include neighborhood officers, I got to focus on that first. I do not want to have to tell a police officer that we're going to do a furlough or lay you off. That's not what I want. So once I get through this budget process, I'm going to be working more diligently on body-worn cameras, but I need to compartmentalize that, because what I don't want to create is a situation where everyone is focused on body-worn cameras and they're so emotional about it that they seek to take that out on other things, right? And so I want to make sure that I do not do that.
Final question. Bernie, go ahead. Let me unmute yourself, Bernie.
Unmute. First of all, thank you for coming to Madison. We appreciate it. And what do you see as the timetable for the construction work for improving the jail facility?
So the jail facility is operated by the sheriff, which is another agency separate from me. That's a county municipality or a county responsibility.
Okay.
We don't manage the jails.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. Final question for Chief Barnes. We'll have to get the sheriff on, Bernie. We'll ask him that question, all right? All right. Carol, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Just
Okay.
a big thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chief. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to do this, and you know where to find us if you need help.
Absolutely, and finally, just let me say thank you for inviting me. This has been the best part of my day. I want you to know that. So I grew up down south with the big family. My family owns a lot of land, so everyone kind of lives near and dear to each other. And then there's a lot of farmland around us. As a young boy, I was just really drawn to my great grandmother. I was fortunate enough to have my great grandmother who lived many, many years. And she lived during the Great Depression. And some of you may know those stories. And so just always wanting to be around her and help her, she would tell me stories, right? From the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And so I felt like I lived through history. So here's a little known fact about me. When I went to college, I studied history. I have a degree in history, because just being around her and listening to her stories, I felt like I lived it. And so studying history allowed me to honor her and everything that she went through and everything we all went through in our country. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate you allowing me to be here, and everyone on this call. Your history. You have great stories to share. And I don't know if you have grandkids, or great grandkids, but share those stories. Those stories are just golden. And it helped me study history and then pre-law and then criminal justice and having a PhD in leadership. And because of my great grandmother and everything she imparted in me at such a young age, I'm able to be here today. So thank you for everything that you have done for us and for our country. America's still a good place. And I appreciate you.
That's really nice. All right, thanks, Chief. You're getting a lot of applause if you can't see it. It's just silent. So thank you very much, Chief. Thanks
you.
everyone for joining us. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.